Have you ever finished a horror movie, stared at the screen and just thought, what just happened? You immediately jump online searching for an explanation only to find out there isn't one. And the director likes it that way. Some horror endings are puzzles by design. The filmmakers refuse to give a straight answer, sparking debates that can last for decades. The cryptic clues, the haunting final shots, it's all meant to keep you up at night. Today we're looking at some of the most infamous horror endings that the creators themselves will not explain, turning these movies into mysteries that haunt us long after the credits roll. The Thing, 1982. Let's start with the absolute gold standard of paranoid horror. John Carpenter's 1982 masterpiece, The Thing. The setup is a masterclass in tension. A team of American researchers in a remote Antarctic outpost discovers a parasitic alien that can perfectly imitate any living thing. As the crew gets picked off one by one, trust completely dissolves. Anyone could be the monster. The movie ends on one of the bleakest and most debated notes in film history. The two lone survivors, MacReady and Childs, sit in the freezing ruins of their destroyed base, eyeing each other with suspicion. Neither man knows if the other is human. With no hope of rescue, they share a bottle of whiskey, resigned to a frozen stalemate. And for over 40 years, fans have been tortured by one question: is one of them the thing? When it comes to answering this, John Carpenter has been notoriously cagey. For years, fans held on to the eye gleam theory from cinematographer Dean Cundey, who suggested that human characters have a light in their eyes that the thing doesn't. But when asked about this in 2023, Carpenter bluntly shot it down, saying Cundey has no clue. He then cheekily added, "Yes, I know who's the thing and who's not in the very end, but I cannot tell you, sorry." By refusing to solve the puzzle, Carpenter makes sure the film's core theme of paranoia latches onto the audience. The most popular theories point to Childs being the thing. He was missing during the final fight, and his breath isn't visible in the cold. Others argue MacReady was infected, and his offer of whiskey is a final, twisted joke. But Carpenter's silence is the entire point. The horror of the thing isn't just the monster. It's the terrifying uncertainty of not knowing who to trust. A feeling Carpenter has permanently frozen in time. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. Next up is the film that terrified a generation with shaky cameras and bumps in the night, The Blair Witch Project. Released in 1999, this found footage phenomenon follows three student filmmakers who get lost in the Maryland woods while making a documentary about the local Blair Witch legend. They soon realize they're being tormented by a force they can't see. The ending is pure nightmare fuel. After finding an abandoned house, Heather and Mike are drawn inside by what sounds like their missing friend's screams. Heather chases the sounds to the basement, only to find Mike standing silently in a corner facing the wall. A second later, she's attacked by something off-camera. Her own camera drops, and the footage cuts out. It's an abrupt, terrifying, and utterly baffling conclusion that left everyone asking, what did we just see? The filmmakers Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez have always said the ending's power is in its ambiguity. Myrick once said, "What makes us fearful is something that's out of the ordinary, unexplained. The first ending kept the audience off balance, and that's what really made it scary." In fact, the studio was so worried about the confusing ending that they paid the directors to shoot several alternatives, including some with more explicit gore. But Myrick and Sanchez fought to keep their original cut, precisely because it explained nothing. Their refusal to give answers has sparked endless debate. The most popular theory connects Mike standing in the corner to the legend of Rustin Parr, a killer who was supposedly controlled by the witch and would make one child face the corner while he murdered the other. Other theories suggest a possessed Josh was the killer, or even that it was all a cruel prank by locals. The directors have heard every theory and let them all thrive, knowing that the scariest monster is the one you never get to see. American Psycho, 2000. At number 3, we have a film that's as hilarious as it is horrifying. Mary Harron's 2000 satirical masterpiece, American Psycho. We follow Patrick Bateman, a handsome, rich Wall Street banker in the 1980s who leads a double life as a narcissistic, blood-soaked serial killer. We watch his meticulous world of business cards, fancy restaurants, and brutal, surreal violence, but the ending makes you question everything. After a bloody rampage that includes a shootout with police, Bateman calls his lawyer and leaves a long, detailed confession on his voicemail. The next day, he confronts his lawyer, who not only mistakes him for someone else, but laughs off the confession as a joke. Even weirder, Bateman discovers that the apartment of one of his victims, Paul Allen, is spotless, up for sale, and being shown by a realtor who claims no one named Paul Allen ever lived there. Bateman is left with the haunting realization: this confession has meant nothing. So, did any of it happen, or was it all in his head? Director Mary Harron has consistently refused to give a simple answer. She has, however, expressed frustration with the "it was all a dream" interpretation. In one interview, she said, "One thing I think is a failure on my part is people keep coming out of the film thinking that it's all a dream, and I never intended that." But when pushed for a direct answer, she's quoted as saying she'd never give one, because that would take the movie away from the audience. Harron's goal was to capture the novel's ambiguity. The satire works whether Bateman's crimes are real or not. If they're real, it's a jab at a shallow society so self-absorbed that no one notices or cares. If they're fantasy, it's a portrait of a man whose identity has completely unraveled. By refusing to confirm either truth, Harron traps us in the same uncertainty as Bateman. The horror isn't whether he got away with murder, it's the chilling idea that in his world, it just doesn't matter. The Shining, 1980. For our number 2 pick, we're checking into the Overlook Hotel with Stanley Kubrick's 1980 horror epic, The Shining. The film follows Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as the winter caretaker at an isolated hotel. As he, his wife Wendy, and their psychic son Danny are snowed in, Jack's sanity slowly unravels under the hotel's evil influence. The film ends with Jack frozen to death in the hedge maze, but the real mystery is in the final, lingering shot. The camera glides through the Overlook's halls and settles on a photograph from the hotel's 4th of July ball in 1921. And there, front and center, is a smiling Jack Torrance. How could he be in a picture taken decades before he was born? Stanley Kubrick was a famously cryptic filmmaker who rarely explained his work. He let theories fly for years without saying a word. In a rare interview, however, he offered a small piece of the puzzle, suggesting the photo implies a kind of evil reincarnation cycle, and that Jack is just another part of the hotel's long, dark history. This idea connects to the ghostly butler Grady telling Jack, "You are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker." But even with that hint, Kubrick never spelled it out. Kubrick's explanation is more of a signpost than an answer. He even said the ending is something better left unexplained. One popular theory is that the Overlook Hotel absorbs the souls of those it corrupts, making them a permanent part of its story. Another suggests Jack is the reincarnation of a past guest, doomed to repeat a cycle of violence. By refusing to give a straight answer, Kubrick ensures the Overlook Hotel remains a place of infinite, terrifying mystery, where the ghosts of the past are never really gone. The Witch, 2015. And finally, our number 1 spot goes to a film that plunged viewers into the cold, superstitious dread of 17th century New England. Robert Eggers' 2015 folk horror masterpiece, The Witch. The story follows a Puritan family, exiled from their community, who try to build a life next to a dark, ominous forest. After their infant son vanishes, the family is torn apart by paranoia and the suspicion that their eldest daughter, Thomasin, is a witch. The ending is as beautiful as it is deeply unsettling. After her entire family is dead or gone, a traumatized and completely alone Thomasin confronts the family goat, Black Phillip. She asks him to speak, and he does, in a deep demonic voice. He asks if she wants to live deliciously. With nothing left, she agrees, signs her name in his book with her blood, and walks naked into the forest. There, she finds a coven of witches, chanting and levitating around a fire. Crying and laughing all at once, Thomasin begins to float into the air with them. But what does this ending really mean? Is it a tragic fall or a triumphant liberation? Director Robert Eggers intentionally leaves it open. He's said he wanted to present the film without judgment, putting the audience into a 17th century mindset where witches were a terrifying reality. He meticulously built the film's world from historical accounts, but he refuses to pass a moral sentence on Thomasin's final choice. The interpretations are sharply divided. One reading sees it as a tragedy. A young woman, failed by her family and her faith, is seduced by evil and damned. A more feminist interpretation sees it as an act of rebellion. In a patriarchal world that only gave her pain and blame, Thomasin sheds her earthly bonds and embraces the only power being offered to her. By finally becoming the witch everyone accused her of being, she finds a twisted kind of freedom. Eggers acknowledges these feminist undertones, but stops short of calling it a happy ending, leaving us to wrestle with the disturbing power of her choice. He gives us the history and the horror, but the final judgment is all ours. From the frozen wastes of Antarctica to the dark woods of New England, the power of these endings lies in what's left unsaid. The fact that these filmmakers won't solve their own puzzles is what makes their stories so unforgettable, proving that the deepest fears are the ones that live in the unknown. Which of these endings do you have the strongest theory about? Are there any other unexplained movie endings that keep you up at night? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip into cinema's biggest mysteries, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more deep dives into the dark corners of film. Thanks for watching.